everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrea. We're doing this semi-regular style, semi-vlog style. I'm on the Olympus pen because I am going to give you a tour of the bookshelf. Finally! I feel like I've been promising this since I started the channel. It's been one of the most commented on features of my videos. I'd say every 2 or 3 videos someone comments on the bookshelves. And that makes me very happy. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up and just get right into the tour because I've got a lot. And to be truthful, this isn't even all of them. So I'm just gonna give you a tour of these shelves. The other bookshelf is kind of under construction. I'll give you a tour of these ones and then there'll be maybe a part 2 down the road. The shelves themselves, that sounds weird, are 4 IKEA bookshelves. So you can see there's 4 units. I went with these because they were $24 each. So in this one, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because this is just all DVDs. If you would like a DVD collection, you can see there's even more down there, and then more here. If you'd like a DVD collection, just let me know. There's also a selection of CDs going across the top. I have a lot of CDs, and the blue boxes also have more CDs. Okay, so coming back to the books, this is the first shelf we'll go through. This is Madge. She's a authentic antique Barbie, and the dress was handmade by my great aunt's neighbor. This used to be my great aunt's Madge doll. Madge or Midge? I can never remember. So she sent her to me a while ago with all of the clothes, including a wedding dress that was made out of lace from my grandmother's wedding dress. On this shelf, I have mostly biographies and then some documentaries and some reality TV shows. I just kind of put all of those together. Thinking I might like do a book of the shelf. I'm trying to think which of these is my favorite. The Life of Millicent Rogers is really interesting, searching for beauty. Retail Hell. If you've ever worked retail, you have to read Retail Hell. It is hilarious. Studs Terkel, Working, is also really good. If you just like biographies of the average everyday person, it's really, really interesting. And then some of these are just, this is an Oxford history of the American people, and then Great American Heroines. I'll mention this one. It's falling apart, but this is an old favorite of mine. I've had this since I was little. And the women in this book are, like, I know it talks about, oh, what was her name? Now I'm blanking. The first female doctor. Elizabeth Blackwell, I think. That's who I'm thinking of. 120. It's got illustrations, which is really cool. Maria Mitchell, great woman astronomer. Clara Barton, founder of the American Red Cross. Elizabeth Blackwell, America's first woman doctor. I was obsessed with Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman when I was in my early teens. So this book was just really cool because it, you know, for a young girl growing up, having a book with women who did cool things was just really nice to have. So moving down, I'm going to sit on my other chair here. This is the other chair that you never get to see. I might start filming in this chair from time to time. Okay, so they're all my film theory, film history books from all of the various film classes that I've taken over the years. This is the view guide from the London Eye. I like having little souvenirs around. So yeah, so a lot of these are textbooks, but then there's also like some standard anthologies like Film and Theory, Hollywood Cinema, The Glamour Factory. If you're really interested in historic film in the golden era of Hollywood, I highly recommend that book. Some TV books mixed in. Yeah. Going down further, a teddy bear. These are all of my kind of classic novels and Jane Austen adaptions. I've got an old kind of classic kids' tale. I've got an edition of, this is Fairy Tales. an old edition of Anna Karenina with a newer one, Little Women, King Arthur, my Yale Shakespeare. I've got an old edition of Christie by Catherine Marshall. It's one of my favorite books, and Christie is also one of my favorite TV shows. That was my great-grandmother's copy. And then I've got Jane Austen mixed in. I've got everything's kind of mixed in, so like Scarlet Pimpernel is not Jane Austen, Rebecca is not Jane Austen, although I do really love Rebecca. And then I've got actual Jane Austen novels mixed in with adaptations like Val McDermid's Northanger Abbey, which is really good. I highly recommend that one. They've got like a script of Sense and Sensibility from the Emma Thompson film, so they're all kind of generally mixed in. And then Austenland, which if you haven't seen the movie was really good. I think the book was better, but that's usually the case. That's kind of it for that shelf. Down here on this shelf, I'm not gonna linger, it's just like old books, like The Rocketeer, there's a Tom Clancy novel. A lot of these are paperbacks that were based on films in the late 90s, early 2000s. I had a thing about buying the book if there was a book with the film, even if the film was the original. Although I do have my copy of Contact, which is really good. I love the movie, but the book was really, really good. And I was really young when I attempted to read Carl Sagan, and so I think I did pretty well with that. Going over here to this shelf, I've got my high school yearbooks. These are just kind of all propped up behind the chair. No one really can see the floor here, so I just kind of leave this as it is. I've got a set of Legos, because you're never too old to play with Lego. And then behind the Lego and the yearbooks, I've got a really random mix. I've got some books that were my mom's, and so there are a lot of like mystery novels written in the 70s and 80s, and then I've got like my Anne of Green Gables and other kids books. So there's some Roald Dahl, there's a bunch of horse books because I was obsessed with horses when I was little. And then In My Father's House is probably my favorite book. True confessions, I haven't read Anne of Green Gables. I haven't read any of them. I know that's going to really upset a couple of you. I'm sorry, and I promise I will read them eventually. But In My Father's House by Anne Rinaldi, I read this multiple times when I was a teenager. I loved this book. It's about a teenage girl in the American South just before and during the Civil War. And then we get to fun stuff, or at least for me. These are just general fashion history books. I've got some paper doll books on the side. I've got a couple DVDs. Fashion on the Ration, I highly recommend that book. That's by Julie Summers. I read this last summer, or 2 summers ago. This was a fashion exhibition at the Imperial War Museum in London. And the exhibition and the book is all about what British fashion was like during World War II when so many things were being rationed. And it really explains the ration system and the coupons, and oh, it was just fascinating. Some of these are museum catalog books. Badgley Mischka, I did a book review on that. I'll try to link that in a card or something. The Looks of Love is by Hal Rubinstein. That's not a museum book, but 100 Dresses is the Met. I think that was an exhibition that they did. This book, Fashion, is the Kyoto Costume Institute. It's a history of clothing from the 18th to the 20th century, and it's just, oh, the pictures. The pictures in this are just, I mean, just look at that. That's amazing. Let's see what we open up to. Some of these I have bookmarked, like that dress is just stunning. A bunch of corsets, going back in history, which is kind of how I am anyway. So the pictures in this are just gorgeous. This one's been out for a while. It is pretty expensive, but you might, because it's so old, you might be able to find a used copy on Amazon. If you are a lover of fashion, a fashion historian, a costume designer, highly, 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 highly recommend this book. And then this was the Chanel exhibition and the Goddesses exhibition at the Met. Fashion Independent, this was a Costume Institute, the Phoenix Art Museum book and exhibition. Ralph Rucci, that was also an exhibition at the Phoenix Art Museum. I love Ralph Rucci, and I've been able to meet him. Tatiana Sirocco. I'll show you Isabelle de Bourchgrave. This is amazing. She came and spoke to the Costume Institute once, and it was so incredible. I want to find a really good one. They're all beautiful, but some of them are just incredible. That's paper. This is why this is so amazing. This is paper that she works in. Again, that's paper. This almost looks like Beauty and the Beast, the coloring. So my lighting has gone really weird. It's actually a rare cloudy day here. Paper, made out of paper, made out of paper, made out of paper, and then she paints on it to make the print. Paper, all paper. Love this book. So these two shelves are school. This one is kind of general rhetorical theory and composition studies. So I've got my Bazell and Hertzberg, The Rhetorical Tradition. If you are a rhetoric student, you have to read that book at some point. Like, it's just required. It's like an initiation ritual. All of these are like my alternative rhetorics, and then I've got my ethnography and like research methods. Then we get into composition, and then more like contemporary, like internet studies, some discourse analysis, Clockwork Rhetoric, which is all about steampunk. I did a book review on this. Foucault, because I guess you're not a grad student if you don't have Foucault on your bookshelves. And then these were a couple books from a class on rhetoric of the axe murderer. Yes, that is a thing, and it was really cool. I do recommend this book, The Murder of Helen Jewett. It's really interesting, and it's pretty easy to read even if you're not a scholar. It's not super academic. There's a lot of great academic and history stuff in there, but it's just really, really fascinating. And a lot of things haven't changed. It's basically about a guy who kills this woman who, because she's a prostitute, he gets let off. Because, yeah, women's lives, they don't matter. Okay, excuse the sarcasm, but yeah. So now we get down into more specific to my research. So we've got women's rhetoric kind of going up through time. So we start with classic rhetoric, and then 19th century, and then 20th century history of feminism. I'm going to do a separate video on feminist books, so yeah, stay tuned for that. And then some memory studies at the end. I'm kind of skipping around. So going down here, I've just got some old VHS tapes. I won't linger on that, but shout out for Anastasia and Pete's Dragon. And then this shelf, I've got Christmas books, because I love them. I highly recommend this series, The Autobiography of Santa Claus by Jeff Gwynne, and then there's two others, How Mrs. Claus Saved Christmas and The Great Santa Search. These books are so good. It's written from the first person perspective of Santa Claus, and then there's so much history mixed in. It's really well researched, and I will probably talk more about those during Vlogmas. These books, Stonewick trilogy is separate, but I do really love that. And then these ones, all these paperbacks here, are a series called the Cheney Duval series. They're about a female doctor in the 1860s. Like I said, obsessed with Dr. Quinn, just obsessed with that time period in general, so love those. On this shelf, which you guys can usually see behind me when I film, I've got Jasper Fforde, Red Queen, Harry Potter, Cursed Child, which I've mentioned. I've got all my Harry Potter books, and then some other novels that I really love, and then some general London bits and bobs, some ornaments. I put them on my tree when my tree is up, but then during the year I leave them out. And then this is a little jar that is from, yes, you can tell how old I am, made in the USSR, which so many of my subscribers probably don't even know what that is. These are my costume theory books. So I've got general costume design books here, which if you love Hollywood costume, I highly recommend checking out Deborah Landis's books. She's got the catalog book for the Hollywood Costume Exhibition, the Hollywood Sketchbook, and Dressed, A Century of Hollywood Costume Design, and I believe I have all of these signed. This one might not be signed. I might have left that at home. I can't remember. But I've met Deborah Landis a few times, and she's fantastic. And then these are kind of costume theory. So I've got Fabrications, Contemporary Costume Film by Julianne Piddock. I've got my book by Stella Bruzzi is up here somewhere. And then my James Bond stuff including my master's thesis, which is right there. Licensed to Thrill Bond Girls Costumes and Representation. That was my master's thesis. And then coming down to these last two shelves, this is my comp exam shelf. This is only a selection of the books that I'm reading for my comp exam. These ones I've finished reading, these ones I still have to read, and this is the other media book. It's the Media and Cultural Studies anthology, so that's one of the books that I'm reading, or just a chapter from that. And yeah, so this is what I'm reading. I've featured a lot of these on Instagram, so some of these might be somewhat familiar. In my first comp exam review video, I mentioned The Power of Glamour and Memorial Mania and Fashion and Its Social Agendas. I might do another one of those videos. Let me know if you'd like me to. So those are the comp exam books, and then these are the rest of... It has gotten so dark in here. It's crazy. I hope this footage turns out. So these are my primary resources for my dissertation. So I'm looking at 6 women, 6 fashion icons. I'm looking at Kate Middleton, Princess Diana, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, Michelle Obama, Audrey Hepburn, and Emma Watson. So these are all come around here. So like, this is a Vogue magazine with Emma Watson. I've got the Vogue with Kate Middleton, got the People book with Princess Diana covers, Michelle Obama, there's a Life magazine, and then I've got just some books, some biographies, and then books that mention them. So like Dana Thomas's Gods and Kings, she talks about John Galliano and Alexander McQueen, both had some connections to the various women that I'm looking at. So yeah, just books that are kind of related, and then some movies that are kind of related, because I'm looking at public memory and how we remember these women based on how we remember their clothing. And then some catalog books, so the wedding dress exhibition at the V&A, because they talk about them, the ball gown book for the exhibition at the V&A. They also mention a couple of the women. I've got a book here that talks about Jacqueline Kennedy, and then the Mario Testino photos of Princess Diana. Yeah, so that's kind of the primary research, the pictures of the women, some of the pictures that I'm looking at, and then these books are kind of the scholarly theory that backs me up and helps me talk about the women. So that's the bookshelves. Got my little lamp. You can see the reflection, the light there. A little reading lamp from IKEA that I can just kind of bend down to look over the chair, because the chair is usually right there, and now it's in the middle of the room. And it's raining again, I think. Rain! Rain in the desert. Clouds. It's not that cold though, unfortunately. That's the bookshelves! Hopefully some of those last few clips aren't too dark, because it definitely got darker in here. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you would like a DVD collection, and I will also do another bookshelf tour of the other bookshelf, which I'm not showing you a picture of right now because it is a mess. Okay, bonus. I do have, leading into my room, I've got this nook that I have filled with books, and I thought I would share this with you. These are my Chic-lit books. It's one of my favorite genres. I hate the name of the genre, but it is one of my favorite genres. Good by Jimmy Choo, really cute. All my books by Jane Green, who I adore. Jemima J is one of my favorite books and one of the ones that got me into this whole genre. A Vintage Affair by Isabel Wolfe is a gorgeous, amazing book. Kathleen Tesaro, The Year of Living Famously by Laura Caldwell. I love this book. I've read this like 5 or 6 times. It's about a girl who falls in love with this actor, and then he gets his big break and they move to LA, and it's like all the crazy stuff that ensues. Loved Walked In is really good. I would classify this more as general fiction. The romance is a little less heavy, but it's really, really beautiful. I wish I could write like this. Sophie Kinsella, I love her. The 20s Girl is great. I've Got Your Number is fantastic. And then Claire Naylor's books are really good. Love a User's Guide is great. Chasing Alice is fantastic. I love Chasing Alice. The Runaway Princess is good. Swept Off Her Feet is good. Fashionably Late is really, really, really good. I love that. Just general good, fun romance novels. that are really well written. Thank you for watching the bookshelf tour. Stay tuned for more videos with Vlogtober. Subscribe if you're new. I'd love to have you here. Leave me a comment. Let me know if there were any books you spotted on my shelf that you liked. I'll see you all tomorrow in the next day of Vlogtober. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.